I got the juice, don't need no proof. 100 like the rum I drink that got me over you. And all your nonsense we all subject to. I find my lane and mind my business like I'm supposed to do. Let's have a toast for all the obstacles that got us here. I put my glass up in the air to stimulate a cheers. Not because we made it, but because we making it. I savor the moment, the bouquet forever, ever then. Yeah. In my realm, I watch the times go by. I got the world in my hands, but I can't tame the sky. Dare I try, I might lose my mind. But it'll be all good after I'm done sipping this wine.
Welcome everybody to Clueless Vino, a show where a guy like me drinks wines and kicks it with some cool guests, man. And we're doing it totally different this week because my guest is in the Netherlands. Welcome, Rachel Armstrong. How you doing, man?
Thanks, man. I'm so good. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed following your wine journey, so I was really excited when you were happy to do a virtual one all the way from the Netherlands and in a different time zone.
Absolutely. Tell the people what time it is for you over there.
It's evening, 11 p.m.-ish.
Yeah. It's a nice 5 o'clock over here, so.
Yeah, in Spain, sometimes they don't even start eating until midnight, so it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I've heard that. We'll get into that for sure. This is the part where I let people, where you tell people about yourself, man.
Yeah, so I went to school with you at Randolph-Macon, Stik. I was a few years ahead of you, but I know you best probably because I was the manager of the basketball team then while you were playing. After Randolph-Macon, the glory years, I moved to Florida and went to grad school. I finished grad school. I have a PhD in chemistry, and then I moved to the Netherlands to do a postdoc, which is just a short-term research gig after your PhD. And I liked it so much, I just never left. So now I'm a researcher for a company here called One Planet. And we work on, as the world population gets really big, we work on making sustainable solutions for industries. So like making healthcare more accessible, making nutrition and food more accessible, things like that. So it's a really cool job. And living in the Netherlands is also really, really cool. So quite intense.
Nice. I like that. So what would you say is the biggest difference between the Netherlands and the United States?
Ooh, transportation
and
like socialized, everything. So one, a lot of people you don't need a car here. I haven't needed or thought for a second I needed a car since about 2015 when I left. And I ride a bike everywhere. And if I can't ride a bike, I take the train. Yeah, so that's a big difference. But also, we also have socialized medicine, so the medical system is very different. And I think those two things combined make a very different atmosphere. It's quite laid back. Everyone on their bikes is very laissez-faire, and everyone's quite healthy, unsurprisingly, because they ride their bikes everywhere, including to the doctor for their checkups. That's probably the biggest difference.
That's cool. I like that. So if you do end up having to take the train, how long would you say the train ride is to wherever you need to go typically?
Yeah, so I live a little bit in the south. The city I live in is called Eindhoven. Eindhoven is about an hour and a half by train south of Amsterdam. Most people know Amsterdam, right? So Amsterdam's about an hour and a half direct by train. The whole country is only, oh my God, the whole country, if you just drive from like the south all the way to the north and then like enter a different country, it's only about 3.5 hours long. Wow. It's like the size of Delaware. It's crazy small. All of Europe is crazy small.
Yeah. So I feel that because I feel like when people do like trips to like Europe, they always it's like, oh, we're stopping at Paris, but then we're stopping at here and we're stopping here. It's like, are they that small, or is it just like everybody's going by so quickly? But it sounds like they're all small.
It's so small. It's crazy. Yeah. I mean, like in 20 minutes, they're speaking French from where I live. In 20 minutes in the other direction, they're speaking German.
Wow.
It's like I grew up in Western Maryland, and I lived 5 minutes from West Virginia and 5 minutes from Pennsylvania. But you don't change languages when you cross the border. But that's how close I live to the border of Belgium, France, and Germany. So it's so dense with culture because the cultures change within like 20 minutes. It's really wild.
It's like walking into a whole new place, like a whole new, you know what it's like? It's like walking into different, like dormitories. It's like, oh, here's Stars, but then you walk in, here's Conrad. You know what I'm saying? You know what that is.
Because in one of them is like all the like lax bras, and then in the other one it's like half the sorority girls, and then in the other one it's like unaffiliated, and like they all have a very different lifestyle.
Exactly. Exactly. You want to get started with our first drink?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know this is also a bit different. We're going to be drinking the same grape, but different wines. The same grape, same country, different wines, because I couldn't find the same ones here.
So what is the deal with that? How does that work, I guess, over there? Like, do you find a lot of the American brand stuff over there, or is it hard to get over there?
I do find a lot of like American wines, but they're just like so for instance, you've probably seen like Yellowtail, the Australian wine everywhere, right? That's here too. Like the heavily distributed ones that are heavily distributed in the US are heavily distributed here. Getting really like kind of small vineyard or like small family wines or something, I had a lot more access to that in the US. And even the Netherlands, like they're not wine people, they're beer people because they're right across like the border from Belgium. So just finding a good wine shop in general is quite difficult. I really have to go to France. When I go to France, I can really load up. Bring some wine back across. Yeah, I make the trips to France for sure. It's a lot easier. Yeah. So the first one is Sauvignon Blanc.
Yes. I have the Cliff Point from Marlborough, New Zealand, for those looking.
And I have Yealands, also from Marlborough, New Zealand.
Okay.
Like this. So similar place. All right. And I don't know if you're a Sauvignon Blanc person, but I kind of chose this one because the ones from New Zealand have like a really distinct smell and taste. So I figured that would be a good one for us to drink transcontinentally.
Nice. So Sauvignon Blanc, I'm a white wine drinker. I'm establishing that. I'm patting it right here. Sauvignon Blancs they're good. I would say they're third probably in my white wine list. So it probably goes like Riesling number 1, Pinot Grigio number 2, and then Sauvignon. So
you like lighter ones then, because if you don't drink a lot of Chardonnays, you stick with like the lighter ones. Are like really good when they're cold on like the back porch on like a summer day. I think of like Pinots, Sauvignon Blancs, and Riesling.
Yeah, crisp is the word I typically use.
That's a great word for it.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, wow. That smells amazing.
Yeah, I always think these smell kind of like, mine always smell kind of like honey, but also with like some lime juice or something. Like if you mixed honey and lime juice to make like a sweet salad dressing.
That's really good.
You like it? Mine's really nice as well.
It's just the right amount of tart, but not like lip puckering, you know?
It's not like a Starburst, so like it doesn't. Yeah.
Right.
The other reason I decided to pick this was because at Randolph-Macon, I took the wine class. And of course, the wine class, you go to Australia and New Zealand. And I thought it would be cool, almost like these wines are kind of like my journey because it was like an Australian and New Zealand, and then the French Pinot because I ended up in Europe.
Nice. It's like a whole geography lesson right now.
Well, truthfully, that class at Randolph-Macon, for the listeners, we had January term at Randolph-Macon. So this 1 month term where you took one class every day for a month. And it was really popular, maybe not for the basketball team since you were like mid-season. It was really popular to travel abroad. There was like 30 classes you could take in like a different country for a month. And the one that I took my senior year was called The Chemistry of Winemaking. And truthfully, there's like no chemistry in that class. It is like winemaking is one reaction. Sugar gets converted to alcohol. You're done. You've learned the chemistry of winemaking. Day one, solved it. It's just all wine tasting and a ton of geography, just like memorizing maps. And it was really hard too. I mean, the final was 4 white wines and 4 red wines, and you do a blind tasting, and you have to taste the wines and say the grape, the country, the region of the country, and then guess the year. Like the year's tough, but the first 3 we're supposed to know for our final.
Wait, so this reminds me of like I forgot, like earlier guests had told me about it's like the test of Molier's taste. That's what that sounds like.
It's kind of like that, but obviously they're way, way harder because they have to say like who the winemaker is and like what vineyard it's from and like, but one of the ones that was the easiest on the test is a New Zealand or an Australian Sauvignon Blanc. You can smell it. It smelled those characteristics. I never want to tell people sometimes what I smell because I don't want to like incept it into their mind, but I could smell them and it reminds me of like a tomato plant or tomato bush. So it has this weird tomatoey smell, but it's also a little sweet. And then I just instantly know, okay, Sauvignon Blanc, like done. And then just write that on my test and move to the next one. And so that was another reason I like to pick this one. I thought it'd be cool to pick this one because it just has that characteristic thing that all Australian and New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs will have that, always.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, it's delicious. I really like this. Always like to try to find like the alcohol content because I'm really big on that. Still, 13% is good, man.
Is yours 13%? That's pretty high for a Sauvignon Blanc.
Yeah.
Oh, mine's 13 too. Oh, that worked out well.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Samesies.
So passion fruit, grapefruit, and honeydew melon.
Oh yeah, mine also has like a honeydew hint. So mine says bright and crisp. There's your word. With notes of stone fruit and guava, underpinned by tropical fruits, balanced with a long, clean mineral finish. I agree with most of that.
Did it say stone fruit?
Stone fruit.
What is that?
Okay, I've only ever tasted it once, and I don't even remember what it tasted like. I remember somebody told me that I was having stone fruit, like in like a fruit salad, and I was like, oh my God, this is on all the bottles. Like I read about it. It was kind of like red currant. Red currant is always written on these bottles, and I like had never had red currant, so I don't know what it tastes like aside from a wine note.
Right. Yeah, I when I read these bottles, at least one of the 3 always has some fruit or like random like taste. I'm like, why? And what is typically?
Yeah, and like I think it's like years later I'll get served that and be like, oh, that's what they mean, you know.
Right.
But like the whole time, I mean, again, I could just tell you like, oh, this has red currant in it because I know what the wine characteristic is. But if you gave me red currants, I wouldn't be able to tell you what they were.
You would probably like ask, what is this? And they're like, no, it's a red currant you've been talking about this whole time. Oh, got it.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I sounded like I knew what it tasted like.
Exactly. So you alluded to the fact that we actually first met on my recruitment visit. You actually did my tour.
I was your tour guide.
Yeah. You played a big part of me actually going because like.
Really?
Yeah, because like so. I don't know if people know this about me. I'm not necessarily a people person. So like. I'm very standoffish. I don't really do well with like a bunch of people. You know, I'm sociable, but I'm more of like an introvert, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. So I'm thinking like Rose is gonna take me, like take me around the campus. Like, no, we got Rachel. I was like, oh, okay, cool, that's fine. And you made it you sold the dream of Randolph-Macon being this family-oriented place. And so if it wasn't for that, I probably would have looked somewhere else. So I want to say thank you for that, obviously.
You're so welcome. I'm so glad you got like a good impression from that tour. That's really crazy that you also remember it so vividly because I definitely remember I gave a lot of tours in general to like big groups, but I gave a ton of tours to basketball recruits. And there are very few that I remember well, and yours I remember very well.
Yeah. So what specifically do you remember? Because I have one thing that I remember specifically, but I'm gonna wait until I finish with you, and then I'm gonna say the one thing I was like, that's it. I'm like, oh, okay.
I remember your family. I remember your parents. Like, they were so pumped. They were like just so gung ho about the whole experience of you going to a place like Randolph-Macon. And I swear to God, like, they could have already been wearing t-shirts in the bookstore. They were just so excited to be there. And I remember your little brother, and being like, he didn't want to be there. I think he was just like following us around and kind of dragging his feet. He's like, yeah, whenever this is over, this is over. And I felt like I really had to impress him for some reason, even though he clearly had no say in this decision.
No input at all whatsoever.
Right, no, he's not writing the text. Like, let's be real. And then the other thing I remember was, of all the tours I gave, nobody ever told me they wanted to major in English. That just like never happened. Everybody came and wanted like business, econ, or science. So fortunately, my brother, he also went to Randolph-Macon, was a business econ person. So I knew that building. I knew the science building because I was a chemistry and biology major. The only reason I even knew what building English was in was because I also majored in Spanish, and they shared a building. And I was like, I'll take you to the building, but this is all I can take you to. Like, this is it.
Yeah. So that's one thing Rose says too. Like, I think he said when he was a coach, he said there's only been 2 people that have actually majored in English. I think the other one was Gil, I think.
Patrick Gill was an Englishman. Oh, he was. And like history, I think. Yeah, okay. That's true.
Him and then me. So like,
I believe that. It's so rare. It's and especially when people know that, I guess you kind of have to know that going to college, because I don't think that's one of the things that like people really like taking English 101 as like a requirement. I don't think that's the type of class where you like discover your dream of writing. That's a pretty brutal, like just write, and we're going to write you into shape kind of class.
Right.
So I think you kind of have to know before you go, but it's a very rare major.
Like, in theory, right? Like, it's like, oh yeah, you're gonna be English. The first thing everyone always is asking, oh, you want to be a teacher? Absolutely not. I can't do that. The kids, man, like, kids are great in short amount of spurts, unless they're yours, because like they have to be there. So like, other than that, I can't, like, the whole sassiness and the back and forth. I can't do that.
I'm with you on that. I worked a couple of summer camps, and it was 6 weeks of hell. Like, I love my friends' kids, but these little hellions at summer camp, I just couldn't do it. And if you told me that that was how I was going to make my living, I would prefer, I think, to be homeless and just never make a living. It's so stressful.
No, I can't. I like, so it would throw people off. So what do you want to do? I want to be a writer. And the only thing I would lament about making is I wish they had like a creative writing major. Like, that would have been great. I would have done that, and it would have kind of been more sense to people. But yeah, man, English, that's my go-to. So it was like, I didn't have to do.
Oh, go ahead. Finish what you're gonna say, and I was just gonna ask who your favorite professor was when you're done.
So I didn't have to do, like, I know a lot of my teammates when they came in, like, they had like an idea of what they wanted to do, but they didn't declare their major like early. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like me, I'm just doing all my electives and all the other requirements first. They like to do all the English stuff at the end of the thing, because that's what I know I'm good at, you know?
Yeah. So who did you like in the English? I only had one English professor. So if it's not Ted Shekels, then I don't know who any of them are.
Oh, I didn't have Shekels. I had Professor Cole. She was great. Professor Cotwalder. Those two are my favorites. Also had Professor Godwin. Godwin or Goodwin? It's Godwin, right?
I think it's Godwin. Yeah,
Godwin.
I think so.
Yeah, Professor Godwin. I did a lot of her classes. I did her Chaucer class, and I love her to death, man. But oh man, I hate Chaucer so much.
What did you do with Chaucer?
Terrible. Oh my God. Chaucer mead is great. That's good. If you ever had that before.
No.
But yes. But other than that, so those are the only kind. Yeah. Oh, and I also had Professor Ginza. Like, I went through the entire English department by the time I left.
You would have to. I mean, it's got to be a pretty small department, right? How can you not have every professor when you get your major?
Right.
I had to take one class. I had to take, and it was such a cheat class because I was in the honors program, and like the thing about the honors program, like it seemed like it would be more challenging, but in fact, because the classes were really, they were smaller and they were really specific and really interesting, and the professors could design these really weird, interesting classes that suited their interests, the classes were easier. So like,
right.
instead of taking, I didn't have to take any composition courses, and I actually didn't have to take literature because I was a Spanish major, so I took Spanish literature, which was very different.
Right.
But the writing course, I instead of taking 2 semesters of like composition, I had to take this honors course called verbal visual composition, and it was just like combining pictures and words. And like I noticed really quickly that our grades were better if we had more pictures, like the more pictorial. So I was just like submitting like basically brochures with like a little bit of caption text and like, oh, A-, like, and I felt really bad. My friends were really struggling in composition with these 20-page papers, and I was like, oh yeah, no, I had 100 words in this particular project.
But see, here's the thing, like where you're like that, any type of like math, like I'll tell you what happens. So freshman year, I come in, you know, they choose your classes for you when you first get there.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So first one I have is calculus. I go in there. Now, mind you, I'm not the greatest math guy. I can get through with math. But once you start doing like, yo, let's do these formulas and these, like, that's where you're starting to lose. So I sit in the calculus, literally like near the front, because you know how rows was. First 2 rows, that's where you have to be. I'm like, all right, bro, fine. I sit there, he's talking, he's like, this, we're gonna do this, that, and the third. He does a thing on the board, and I'm listening intently. Like I'm paying attention. I haven't taken my eyes off of him yet. Like time to go. I get up, I go to my dorm, I go to my laptop, drop class, and I add something else. Like, no, I can't do this.
I don't like that they chose your class. They did that to me too. And I remember like getting a schedule. I knew, so I was like you described everyone earlier. I declared a major really late, like end of my sophomore year. And I just started knocking off requirements until I could figure out, like, I knew it would be something science, you know, but I didn't know specifically it would be chemistry. So I started taking all these classes that whatever science major you were, you had to have. You had to have 2 semesters of bio. You had to have 2 semesters of calculus. You had to have 2 semesters of chemistry. So I'm knocking those out, plus all the other random liberal art stuff. And like when I first got there, though, because I hadn't declared anything, they like handed me a schedule. And I had calculus 2. It was like a history, like an art history class, like an upper level art history. And then it was Spanish, and then like some composition or some like English literature course. And I remember looking at my schedule and almost bursting into tears. Like none of these were things I wanted to do with my life. So I didn't know what to do. So I called my brother crying, and he was like, calm down, turn around, go back to the registrar's office. And this is like, they hadn't gotten the online system running yet. So you had to go to the registrar. He's like, fill out the papers. Here's what you're going to take. Are there any of the courses you like? And I was like, Spanish, I guess. And I was like, well, why would they sign me up for art history? And he's like, I don't know, because you're not an art major. So here's what you're going to do. Fundamentals of Music 101. There's your arts credit. Like he just, my brother had just left, so he knew all the courses in his head, and he just walked me through it. But I was like a wreck. I had no clue what to do. And that's why like Randolph-Macon was the best fit for me, because I think if I had gone to a big school with like 30,000 students, I would have self-destructed, you know, I wouldn't have known who to ask. I would have, I didn't have like any real world experience. I came from a tiny town of a few thousand people. So I needed a Randolph-Macon that could nurture me until I got to the point where I could handle myself in a big city.
So that's the exact thing I was saying about Randolph-Macon. Yes, as an athlete, do you want to go D1? Sure, you do. But at the same time, it's like the scope is bigger.
Yeah.
And so like that one-on-one, that close connection, that family thing isn't as easy to obtain in that big of a environment, right?
Absolutely.
So when you get to Macon and you're like, oh, the class is going to be like 15 to 20 people. Cool. How many people are there? Back then, like, it was like, what, 800, something like that. It wasn't that huge.
Yeah.
It wasn't a huge number back then.
I think it was like
okay.
right around 1,000 always, and now they're up to maybe like 1,400 or something on a good year,
Right.
but still like a high school size, you know?
Exactly. And for me, like I'm coming from a high school, my graduating class was like 115 people. You know what I'm saying? So like that small, small sense of thing where I can like go touch somebody like, hey, I need this, like with ease,
sure.
it was great for me. Yeah. They did the all decade team this past year, and you were first team for
that was crazy. That was so cool. I was very honored.
I thought that was a cool idea that they did. So you played under Woods?
Yeah, I played under Woods for all 4 years. Yeah, okay. And he left he's still at Randolph-Macon, but he left the coaching capacity maybe 2 or 3 years after I left. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and I really enjoyed playing for him. Like, I would say, like, sometimes I think with like any coach, I didn't always agree with like personnel decisions, but in general, I thought it was like a really positive experience playing for Coach Woods. And I loved the teammates I had. I'm still really close with a lot of them. Being a captain on that team was awesome because my freshman year we were really good, and then my sophomore, junior year we were not very good. I think we were always above 500, but we were just never as good as that freshman year. And my freshman year, we came in with, we had 13 freshmen.
Oh, wow.
It was wild. Like, our locker room was packed. Like, I think we had 28 players. I mean, it was wild. And then the next year,
wow.
It was crazy. So we had 13 and we ended with 6, I think, my senior year. But my senior year, we were pretty good again. And it just, it was really fun to be a captain on that team. It was cool.
So speak to how you started as a freshman, right? And then ended up as a senior. Like what was like the dedication as a D3 athlete of how, the grind and the behind the scenes stuff that people may not know about.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I think
I don't know the soccer grind as much.
Yeah, I think it's, just from being around like the men's basketball grind and like, because I came to a lot of the practices. I used to run the clock for you guys at practices, so I wasn't in the weight room or anything like, but it's pretty similar. And this is sort of maybe a topic I wanted to eventually touch on, but there's a big difference between being a female athlete in a lesser popular sport and being a male athlete in a popular sport, and that also played out at Randolph-Macon. Like, I can tell you my experience. I felt like a queen or a princess being the manager of the men's basketball team. I mean, when we would go to restaurants and I can order whatever I want, like that's just crazy. Because as a female soccer player, after a match, I think we had like a $5 limit at Wendy's. It was wildly different, and it's it's not the university's fault. It's just like, this is a testament to men's versus women's sports. It just is what it is. Donors donate like crazy to the men's basketball team, and that's where the money goes. I sat in how many donor dinners where I had to dress up and sit with this very wealthy old white guy who was an alum giving a lot of money. You sat at those dinners, and we were so gracious that this is how they want to spend their money, is taking us out to dinner, paying for uniforms. Women's soccer shockingly doesn't get a lot of those opportunities. Like, it's just a very different vibe. But I would tell you also, in terms of the physical grind, I think it's pretty similar to the men's game. The difference is, we didn't have a full-time assistant. So in the off season, it was up to us.
Right. Okay.
That was really tough. The first year especially. So I don't know if this wasn't an issue when you were around, but Jim Woods was also the men's lacrosse coach for my first year. Wow. He was a dual coach for years.
Oh, wow.
And
so that's like 2 separate seasons though, right? So winter and spring? Okay.
Yeah, so that's spring and fall, basically. So opposing seasons, but we had no assistant coach in the off season. Right. So like if we met in the off season, it was like up to us. And getting a bunch of girls in the weight room is like pulling teeth. Like, they just don't want to lift. And I really like lifting. I have bad knees. I have to lift just to like keep my knees in place. So I didn't mind getting there, but convincing other people, and their excuses were terrible. Like, I don't want to bulk up. Like, you're not gonna. You couldn't if you tried. Like, You're not going to turn into Arnold Schwarzenegger. You're just going to be able to move. Yeah, you're going to be able to move from like the 5-pound weight to the 7.5. Like, calm down. But yeah, I would say like it was different because we had to be much more responsible for our own success in the sense that no one was there to push us in the same way. And in that sense, then I think that's also why we weren't as successful for that reason. Now, at the end of my freshman year, like a lot of like girls had complaints against Woods for other reasons. They thought he was too tough. I never thought he was too tough. Like that was not an issue to me. I thought he was tough and that's why we were good. So I didn't mind him being tough. But I remember the assistant AD at the time was Coach Burns. And so he came up to me and said, like, what do you think about, you know, Coach Woods? Do you have any issues? And I was like, no, I don't have any issues with him personally, but I have an issue that he's also the coach for 2 teams. Like, we don't get an off season. That seems not fair. The men's lacrosse team is a full-time assistant, and they are training in the fall with their full-time assistant. Whereas our full-time assistant to train in the spring. So either we should get a full-time assistant or we get a year-round coach. And the next year, they asked Coach Woods to pick, and he can only do one. And so that's when we finally got like a full-time coach. So it got better by my senior year, 1, because that happened. But 2, I don't know, we just had a good group of girls that kind of bought into the program a little bit more, that enjoyed like the off-season work a little bit more. We got like better. I think we had really good captains my freshman year and then again my junior and senior year. So, but the time management of being a student athlete is essential. So I would say that also had improved a lot by the time I was a senior.
I also think too, and I can speak to this just because of how our team was built. When you have a big like graduating class or a senior class, that definitely helps because like they've been through this for 3 years, and so like they know what to expect. These are these people that you can look up to as you're practicing, as you're getting towards the season. During the season was a rough patch, so that probably also played a big part in the success y'all had y'all senior year. Would you say that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, especially if you have like a big group that has bought into this program, right? Like it can be your best friend or your worst enemy, I think, as a coach, to have like a core group that are not into what you're selling, that they don't believe in this type of play, they don't believe in these workouts, they don't believe in whatever your style is. So long as if you have a good group though on the other end that are just buying into it, that is a natural form of leadership. Just having people in front of you that are more senior than you that just like are all in 100%. You're going to be like them for sure. And I definitely had some seniors above me that I really valued in that sense, but I also think I tried very hard to be that person by the time I was a senior. I was very cognizant of it. And we had 4 captains my senior year, and I would say 3 of us were particularly like great leaders for the younger athletes. One was just like a leader by hard work. She didn't say much, but she worked her ass off. So everybody else worked their ass off. The second one was definitely the more, she was the pusher. And then I was the positive one, you know? So we had this like trio that I think was a good combination to really like turn the dial up a notch to get everybody to buy into this program.
Because not everybody responds to the same type of like motivation, right?
No,
so, like,
for sure.
Some people need a kick in the ass. Some people need to hear like the positive things they're doing to maybe improve on the other things. And then some people just need to watch another person go hard, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, the girl who would really go hard and was kind of like the leadership by example. Let me give you an example of her trying to use her words. One time before a game, you know, myself and the other kind of talkative captain are saying, guys, here's what we're focused on this match. We trained on it. You've got to keep your head up. You've got to be looking for space here and here. And then she chimes in. She's like, you know what, guys? Soccer's like really easy. If you just don't give the ball to the other team, you won't have any problems. Why don't we all just do that? How about we just not turn the ball over today and then we'll win? And everybody just kind of looked at her. It's like, thanks for that tip. Like, just don't give the ball to other people. Okay,
I mean,
moving on.
Great advice.
Yeah. So, I mean, maybe like giving tactical advice was not her thing, because for her, it's easy not to give the ball away. She's the hardest worker on the field. She's probably the best player on the field. Yeah, it's easier said than done.
Yeah. That's funny.
So we all have our thing. And maybe some people like that advice. Like, oh, I never thought of soccer as that simple before.
Right. So, are we ready for a second?
Let's do it.
All right.
Go ahead and describe yours. I've got to open mine.
I do too.
Okay.
But it's a Pinot Noir. Bourgogne?
Bourgogne, but otherwise known in English as Burgundy. That's a region in France, Burgundy.
Okay, thank you.
Whew,
needed that one.
yeah, no, I know. It took me a really long time to put that together too, actually, that Bourgogne was Burgundy, but in French.
I'm not mad at that at all. We gotta get you an electric one.
I think I used to have one.
There we go.
Oh, I know. I remember I did used to have one, but it doesn't work in European outlets, so I didn't bring it. You can't charge it.
So wait, how different are they?
Yeah, you can't. You'll fry electronics. They're like a different voltage entirely. Yeah, so it's not even just getting like the shape of the converter right. It's like you'll ruin things. So
Oh god.
I don't have any American electronics.
So how? Oh wow, that's. Woo. I don't even know how to even follow up a question with that. So like, so it's all European-based thing.
Yeah. So when I moved here, I sold all my stuff.
Yeah.
And just like, I think I brought like 2 suitcases. And now, so I own a home here. I bought an apartment and I filled it with European things.
Okay, cool. So like, what's your favorite European? What's a European thing that you enjoy using that we can't get over here?
That's a good. The coffee makers.
Okay, really?
Are really good. Yeah, I actually have a Swiss one. It is my lifeblood.
Nice.
I bought it in Switzerland, but it's an Italian one, and it's very high end and expensive. But I just find that people are really into good coffee here, so it's not weird to pay a lot of money for a coffee maker. And now that I've bought one, I get that. I would have like punched myself in the face 8 years ago in graduate school if I knew how much I was going to pay for this coffee maker, but it's worth every damn penny. Yeah.
Okay. So over there, do they do like sweet things? Like do they do creamers or is it straight? How do they do their? How do they and then how do you do
it changes from like country to country. The Netherlands, I would say they're not like huge coffee people, but go to Italy, they just put a little sugar in. France, like how dare you put sugar in? Switzerland is like milk because Switzerland is known for their cows and their milk. Yeah, so I don't know. It really varies. But the important thing is like the beans and the grinding and all that stuff. So everybody's got their own thing, I guess.
Yeah.
Are you a coffee person?
Absolutely not. So it's not. So I can drink coffee, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't actively look to drink coffee. Like I don't.
Good. That's healthy.
Yeah, but like I'll wake up in the morning like, oh man, you know what I could really use right now? I'm so tired. A cup of coffee. But I'm like, you don't drink coffee, you moron. Like, what are you talking about?
You know, I could usually have a cup of energy.
Yeah.
any liquid form.
Just that. So do they put their nose up to like Starbucks? Like is it Starbucks over there, or are they just
there's like a Starbucks like where I work, but it's definitely not considered good coffee. They have like lots of little local coffee places, just like you would in the U.S., like kind of uppity little coffee places that people swear by. I mean, when I went to graduate school, I already started to see this happening. Like graduate students are the same way about their coffee because they drink so much of it to get through graduate school, I think. And they're really like, they have their own little espresso machines at their desk and they swear that they get like imported beans and it's all just like extra, way too much.
Yeah.
But here, it's the same thing. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what we got.
Yeah. So I also have a Burgundy Pinot Noir. And I chose this one because when I first moved here, I kind of befriended a wine connoisseur who's from the region, and he took me wine tasting there for a few days, and it was like remarkable, just crazy. And so I really like it's very different from Pinot Noirs in the U.S. Pinot Noirs in the U.S. and like, well, New World Pinots, like Australia, U.S., South Africa, they're really fruit intense. sometimes like too fruity.
Yeah.
But the ones from France are a bit softer and they're a little more like earthy and minerally. So they're very different. And
Okay.
so I had never had many French Pinots, and then I moved here. So it's also part of my wine journey.
All right. We're going to France now. All right. Okay. Very rich smelling.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. Yeah, mine's kind of like almost like, it's quite nice. It's like a little almost like has like a soily taste to it, but in a good way. It doesn't taste like I'm drinking soil, but it just has like a hint. It smells like you're out in the forest or something.
Yeah.
But again, we have different wines, so they could taste totally different.
Right.
And mine is Jean-Claude Boisset, which is very French, clearly.
Okay. Got to show mine.
Yep.
So the flavor for this is plum, raspberry, and cherries on the nose, fresh fruit in the mouth with balanced acidity and smooth tannins on the finish.
So nothing like what I described. Mine says, this is a really long description. Let's see. Oh, this wine is the quintessential expression of this winery. It's both an initiation into Burgundy and a great wine in its own right. Made exclusively from Pinot Noir, the noble varietal for red Burgundies, painstaking vinification has produced a dazzling, indulgent personality, offering aromas of red berries and a sustained finish. Well, that's like a bunch of empty words. That doesn't tell me what it's going to taste like, except for red berries.
I hate when they do that. I'm like, what red berries? There are lots of red berries.
I know. And like, maybe a little bit, I get that. But it tastes, I mean, if you're going to say it tastes like red berries, I'm just like, I smell more of like a raspberry Jolly Rancher than like fresh berries.
It's like, just say that though. Just say it's raspberries and call it a day.
Yeah, don't give me a full paragraph. Because also they have this in French and in English. And I was like, you just wasted so many words on this.
So many characters. Oh my God. I took French. So in French in high school, for me, I was like the man. Oh my gosh. I was getting A's everywhere. Then I got to college. And I took the first. So, you know, they make you take that test before you get to school. Like, oh, let's see who you place and, you know, how good you know, like, oh, you need to be in the beginner's level. Or you need to be intermediate. Somehow I got into the intermediate portion. So I'm like, okay, cool, whatever. That's fine. I do know my French very well. Man, I sit in that class. She just started speaking French. I'm like, wait, what?
Wait, this is the fluent. This is the one you started. You're fluent? Like, what the hell?
I'm like, whoa, I'm not at that level. And everybody else is just responding perfectly. I'm like, oh, I see how this is gonna go. Oh, it was awesome.
Again, we go back to our room. We add drops.
But I need, you know, you need the credits or whatever. So it's like, I can't start over. I can't just start from Spanish. Oh, like, you know, from the beginning. Yeah. Like, let's just see if I can make it work. And listen, I graduated, so there you go.
Well done. We pushed through.
I made it work.
I did the same thing. I took like 4 years of Spanish, and then I passed into the intermediate one. And the same thing, I had that very alarming experience of like, oh, he just did the entire introduction in Spanish. Like, and I kind of looked around, and everybody else seemed a bit lost. I was like, I'll see where this goes.
It made you feel good, right? Like, oh, okay, cool. I'm not the only person. Nice.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But I also had, it was ended up being one of my favorite professors, Professor Moline. And one of the things I remember so well about that class was one day we were talking about using the preterite tense, past tense. Yep. And he's like, guys, I just forgot something in my office. I'll be right back. He leaves the room and lets us like finish a worksheet. And he comes back and he's wrapped his face in a bandana and he has like a toy gun. And he robbed us of all of our pencils. And then he left. And then he came back as himself. And he's like, what happened? And we had to explain in the past tense that we had been robbed.
Dog, what?
It was genius, though. We were laughing so hard and still like learning Spanish at the same time. He had to suddenly speak in past tense to explain to him that a robber came in and stole our pencils. And that is how this day I know, like, robear is the word for to rob someone. Like, I only would have learned that in that day. I've never been robbed. Like,
so here's the thing. First of all, that's an amazing way to teach, and that's why Randolph-Macon has some of the best professors there are.
For sure.
So there's that. Number two, I know I couldn't have been in that class because I'm not letting anybody rob me. I'm from, where I'm from, we just don't want to have it. No, you can't have my pencil.
You fight back. I don't care if you're clearly my professor. Like, yeah. It was crazy.
I would have felt like Shaggy or like Fred from Scooby-Doo, like, let's see who you really are, and rip like his bandana. Like, what are you doing?
Exactly. It did take us, it was a solid like 30 seconds before anyone really understood what was going on. Before he like took the pencils and ran, and we're like, what the fuck just happened? And then, he comes back in.
That is hilarious.
Genius. And I had him again when I kept majoring in Spanish. My final literature class was Don Quixote. So we just read Don Quixote in Spanish. And oh my God, it was so fun. It was only like 6 people because you're at like the really like highest end of your major. So there's really only a few people there. And yeah, it was just chapter by chapter. And he's really big in like reenactments. And so whenever we didn't understand something, he'd be like, well, let's reenact it, And we reenacted like half of Don Quixote. So I'm a huge fan of that book now. I've read it in both English and Spanish, and just like the Spanish, it's just way cooler because it's just such a unique book. I mean, it was the first, he was really the first person to write, like Cervantes was the first person to write that way. And like, I have such an appreciation for it because of that class. Like it's crazy because I got my pencils stolen.
Right. Those are the best classes though, man, where it's engaging. Like some classes where you go in there and you're just like, listen, I'm doing this. I need this for credit. This is why I'm here. But then like the ones where, they make it engaging or they do something fun to like add some extra flair to it. That makes it better. Like I know one class I took, it was like children's lit or whatever. And like sometimes the press would be like, okay, you know what? We're not reading anything today. We're just going to watch Winnie the Pooh. Right?
Yeah.
Like, and we just compare it to like the books later. I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. I can get that. I can get on board with this versus, hey, solve this formula.
Yeah. No, for sure.
That's not for me, Oh my God, science classes, I used to luck out perfectly because like, what did I take? I want to say it's like biology or something. But we had to go out into like the woods or whatever to collect samples and stuff, like getting the water and all that stuff. First off, whatever. I'm Black. I don't swim, bro. Like that's not a thing for me. So they're like, yeah, you need to put on this, that, and third. Like, I'm 6'10", bro. I don't think you're gonna have anything in my size. And they look. Oh, if we don't, sucks. I'll just stand outside here and take notes. Oh man, it was fantastic. So one of the few times I'm like, yes, the height thing has finally success with me.
If you were to ever come to the Netherlands, you wouldn't be that tall here. They're some of the tallest people in the world.
Nice. I like that.
You'll be eye level with everybody. Well, not everybody, but you will be surprised at how many men you're eye level with. They're like crazy tall.
That's dope. I like that though, because
it's from the milk they drink. I don't know. I have no idea.
Maybe. It's possible. Dang. So what do you do for fun out there? Like, what's your, before, obviously, scam death.
Before 2020.
Right, before 2020 was like, you know what? Let's just all take a break real quick.
Yeah.
What would you do for fun out there if everything was open?
Yeah, so one thing I'm really happy to be able to keep doing is playing soccer, like, really competitively. Nice. So when I was in Florida State, like, you can't really find many, like, adult rec leagues. Richmond's got a few good ones, but you don't have enough to play like women's 11v11. That's not a thing. Right. But here, I was actually working for the university, and they let me play with like the university team. So it's like me and a bunch of college kids. I am like a decade older than most of them, but I can still keep up, so that's good. And there's like we play. We have 11 teams in our conference, And we actually are like in our district, maybe you'd call it. And then in any, you know, one year they switched us to a different district. So there was just like 11 more teams. I mean, there's like hundreds of teams here that are all women's 11v11. It's just crazy. Everyone plays soccer. So, and it's really competitive. I would say it's like almost Randolph-Macon level, actually. It's quite good.
Okay.
And yeah, and they also have the relegation system here. So all of the teams are about the same level because the teams who lose go down a league and the teams who win go up a league. And so you always have like a really good match ahead of you. You know, you don't have any like blowouts. You don't get blown out. Like it's a really cool system. And so that's normally where you would find me. I'm actually wearing one of my team shirts now. We're sponsored by bars. This literally means the party factory in Dutch. You will never catch me there. It's horrific.
Really?
It's a college bar, and like all the windows, they're blacked out, and on the outside, instead of like windows, they advertise all the shots that they sell. They sell 200 different shots, and like I'm too old for that.
So in my head, I know I'm too old for that, but that sounds like a great time, Rachel. I'm not gonna lie to you.
When you come visit, I'll take you to Face Public. Sure, we'll go. And you walk in.
What's up to me?
I mean, it's just like you walk in and like they haven't figured out. I don't know what their theme is. Like it's called the Party Factory. You walk in though, and it's wood paneling everywhere. So it's like a cabiny feel. Yeah. And then they just got smoke machines and like colored lights everywhere. So like it's seizure-inducing cabin with shots. I don't know what they're going for, but it's just cheap. And so they sponsor us. So occasionally we have to go and have a beer there, and like that's what I do to pay, you know, for their support.
Yeah.
My teammates love it. My 20-year-old teammates absolutely adore it. So good for them.
That's fun. Yeah, it's hard. Like I would say it's hard to get like leagues out here, but
How is it for basketball? Because I know you played basketball for like years after Randolph-Macon.
So really, it's really just about like the pay scale, man. Like the entry fees they have for certain stuff is like crazy. Like to me,
really?
Like I understand as a business and you have to like make money and you have to do this, that, and the third, but some of the stuff it's just outrageous, man. But I try to find leagues where like I can just get a nice run in, because really I'm here for like the endurance and like the condition at this point.
Yeah, for sure.
So I've done church leagues. I've done like some county leagues. I did like the summer league one time. I've done the Vail League, obviously. So it just depends, man. I haven't played in 2 years just because I tore my Achilles at one time.
Yeah. It was your Achilles or your knee? It was your Achilles.
My Achilles, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So I haven't played in 2 years, but I'm trying to find something now. Now that things are about to open up, I'm about to get the vaccine or whatever, the second one.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm ready to get back out there, man.
When I was in high school, my dad tore his Achilles. My dad was my high school teacher and guidance counselor, basketball coach, and golf coach. He was everywhere.
Nice. He was everywhere.
Yeah. I had geometry and algebra with him, and then he became a guidance counselor. So I applied for colleges like through him, and then also I played basketball for him and golf for him. It was just it's a small town, right? I mean,
right.
So my grandfather was his math teacher at the same high school. Yes, just like a descending thing. My brother and I broke the chain, though. We did not become math teachers.
There you go.
But my dad was a college basketball player. He played at a D3 school in Maryland, and it's pretty good. He's a guard. And so basketball was like in our family forever. We're big Duke fans. Love Coach K.
Okay.
And my dad, though, when he was probably about 50 at this point when I was in high school. And he and some other teachers, they decided they were going to get together at 5 a.m. every Friday morning, play an hour of basketball, shower up, go teach. And so they were doing this for like a few weeks, and they were like really proud of themselves. They started like developing this like kind of plan. It was going to be called like the high school wellness program, and it's going to like expand to other schools. And then the injuries started, because men were a bit too old and a bit too competitive. And I remember like my dad normally on this morning, he wouldn't take me to school. My mom would, because he was already at school. But he came home after he had left. He came home, and I heard him walk in when I was getting ready and say to my mom, "You need to drive me to the emergency room. I think I tore my Achilles."
Yeah.
And so they had taken another teacher's T-shirt. They were playing shirts and skins, and just put some ice in it and then tied it around my dad's ankle. Someone dropped him off at my house. My mom took him to the emergency room. And they get to the emergency room and they untie the T-shirt, and this guy's keys fall out. It's the gym coach.
What?
And now they have his keys, basically. He left them in his T-shirt. So my mom goes outside of the hospital to call him. She's on her cell phone to call him and be like, Ray, we have your keys. And then she's calling him, and someone taps her on the shoulder, and she turns around, and it's Ray. He's at the emergency room, because after my dad left, he dove to save a ball and dove into the bleachers, and he sliced his head open, and he needed stitches. And so, like, there's this brilliant picture of, like, my dad in a wheelchair with his foot up, and then, like, Ray, the gym teacher, with his arm around him, like, bleeding from the head with IVs and shit in the background. And someone took it and put it on a flyer that said the high school wellness program. Just like it circulated around the school. Like, and then even, I mean, one history teacher got his nose broken because, like, the biology teacher grabbed the ball, as you do with a rebound, elbows out, turns for an outlet pass right in the history teacher's nose. The other history teacher, who was fresh out of college as a 4-year quarterback for the local university, tore his meniscus. He tore his meniscus and his ACL. Like, they were just dropping like flies, you know? And like, they just so funny. They're like, we're going to expand this to other schools, get all these male teachers in shape, and like, they're all injured.
They had great intentions.
I know. And I don't think my dad, it's really sad. My dad, I don't think has played basketball since. And even when he heard it, all he did, he was jogging down the court. He just turned and pivoted. Like, there was no one around him, no ball. It's just a fluke thing. It's really, it happens so fast. And so without like little pressure.
It's the craziest injury. Again, like, same thing. Like, I had the ball and I was literally just going to dribble. And then that was it. And
he said it felt like someone threw the ball at his ankle. Like, he felt the pop. It felt like someone hit your ankle.
It felt like somebody kicked me in the back, in the back, right? And I looked, I was like, maybe the ref like ran into me. He's like way down the court. So I'm like, oh, okay, so something just happened.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. Yeah, it was bad. It was bad.
And not a fun recovery. I remember my dad's, at least. It's a long recovery too.
So the worst part about it was, for me, was the first like 11 days. Like, I had to be in or maybe it was 9. I had to be in that cast. So I've never been in a cast sport. That was my first like real injury of any sport, right? So I've never been in a cast. So they put me in the cast, and I'm like, okay, cool. So they're like, yo, make sure you take your medicine to stay ahead of everything. I'm like, yeah, whatever, okay. So I guess I don't do that in time. And so like, I'm waking up at like 2, 3 a.m. and I'm like, dog, this is excruciating.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to play the game for 3 hours in the morning, like from 3 to 6, go back, take a 2-hour nap. I'm back up. And then I have to entertain myself to try to like get rid of the pain. But you also have to elevate it and all these different things. So I'm doing this for 9 days. And I'm like, bro, once I got out of that, like, okay, cool. I'm in a boot. This is fine. I can do this. This is fine. But those first 9 days.
You're mobile. Like, you can be mobile, at least with a boot.
Right. The crutches thing, man, I was like, like, I get it. Plus, I'm 6'10", bro. So it's like, I'm like bending with the crutches.
Yeah. Do they make crutches for people who are 6'10"?
So they can adjust it to a certain height, but it's like, yeah, we don't have the ones that you probably need. We don't run into you a lot.
And I also feel like when you go to the max height, it's kind of like you're not supposed to stand on the top rung of a ladder. I feel like it's just not going to be as stable if it's all the way to the final like bolt.
Exactly. Like, something can go terribly wrong, and then next thing you know, I'm falling again.
Yeah.
You know. I do want to circle back just real quick. There was one thing I specifically remember about the recruiting visit that I had.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it was, you had told us about the Ponderosa at Macon.
The shooting? Did I tell you about the Ponderosa shooting?
And so I'm just thinking like, oh, okay, I've never heard of Ponderosa. It's cool, whatever. Like, you're telling me these different restaurants. You're like, oh yeah, there's this, that's Ponderosa. Oh, but that's where the sniper was shot. I was like, wait.
I thought everyone
I'm like, why are you telling us this?
In hindsight, I don't know why I would have told it on a recruiting visit. That's a terrible idea.
I just want to let you know, I never went there. Never had any intentions on ever stepping foot at
Well,
that Ponderosa.
they caught him/them, and B, why would they go to the same place twice? You know, that's the safest place you could be.
Listen, I understand that they were caught, but it's still a tainted spot at this point. I was like, nah, I'm cool. I'm gonna go to this Wawa right here.
I'm one of those people that listens to like true crime podcasts and stuff, and I listened to one all about the DC sniper recently, and it really took me back because that shut down, like sports got shut down this year. That shut down sports in Maryland. So I wasn't allowed to go like outside. You weren't allowed to go like outside of like 10 miles or something. You couldn't travel downstate to DC, which was like a couple hours ago, but still we had games there. It really shut things down until they could catch this guy because he was so random and like, and it was also crazy. Like he was like, you know, shooting people in Maryland and stuff. So fine. And my brother was at this random town called Ashland, Virginia at college. Like I had never heard of Ashland, Virginia prior to my brother going to Randolph-Macon. And I remember being at a friend's house at a party, and on the TV, it's like on the bottom, it was like breaking news, sniper kills someone or shoots someone in Ashland, Virginia. And I was like, what? Like, and so I knew my brother wasn't in Ashland. He played for the golf team, was at a golf tournament, but I was just like, what are the odds? Like, so random. And of course, like, I mean, when my brother was there, they got all these email alerts saying like, stay in your dorms, like don't come out. But if you have to, walk in a zigzag fashion. And so apparently all the students just like zigzagged on over to Ponderosa, like to see all the commotion. Like,
of course. But one thing you don't do is tell them where to go, because you know that's where they're going.
Yeah, and don't give them an option. Just say stay inside at all costs. Like,
don't give them any information other than that.
We know that people are going to do like this. If you give an inch, they're going to take a mile. So don't give them an inch.
Of course. But you know how I used to be out there, man.
Yeah.
We always gotta find a commotion, though. That's just how it was.
How did your parents take it that I told them about the sniper shooting?
So I don't think, like, I think it was one of those things where like it was said, and then like I think later on we got in the car, like, yo, did she really tell us about this? Like,
I can't believe I did that.
She did. I was like, because in my head, like I didn't say anything outwardly, but I was like, what?
I'm also thinking now in my head, like, how many recruits did I lose? Because I told their parents that you guys could have been even better than you were as a basketball team, apparently. Because I probably lost 1 or 2 stars, but telling their parents they were going to get shot at.
That's what I'm jealous. And like, I'm 6'8", like, oh, I'm a perfect target for this guy. Like, holy shit. Like,
he can see you above your SUV, so.
Like, bro, that's a practice shot for him. Like, all right, cool, I'm good now. I'm ready. Like, dang. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, listen, I got past that. I got past that big scare, and I made it. So yeah, everything was fine.
I'm glad it all worked out.
Yeah, let's. Okay, so another Randolph-Macon thing. Let's say it's late night. We've had a few drinks. Where are we going? Are we going to Sheetz or are we going to Wawa?
Oh, we're going to Sheetz.
Yeah.
I am not a Wawa person. I never have been, nor will I ever be a Wawa person.
So not Wawa, Waffle House.
Waffle House.
Yeah.
Ooh, that one's tougher.
That is tough. That's tough.
I still think Sheetz because I think I like I don't know. The only reason I say this because I went to Waffle Houses in Florida when I was in grad school. And in Florida, you have those big palmetto bugs, those like cockroaches. And I have seen those in Waffle Houses, but there are no Sheetz in Florida. So I've never seen cockroach-type bugs in Sheetz. And I just have this weird association. It's not because I think Waffle House is dirty. It's because I think they may, in some places in Florida, have palmetto bugs that look like cockroaches. Right. So I think that's the only reason. But also, I grew up with Sheetz. I'm just a bit attached to it.
Right. So I'll let you know now. First of all, I think all Waffle Houses are dirty. Let's just get it out of the way now. I saw somebody say that it's either they said either it's country or redneck hibachi, and you know what? It is. That's exactly what it is. They cook the food right there in front of you. And the cooker is sweating. She's doing this the whole time. You see the sweat going into your eggs, but do you care? You don't. You just eat the food because it's delicious.
Right.
But the thing about Sheetz, fans, is Sheetz had options.
So many, and like you could, oh my God, whatever your craving was. Like with Wawa, I feel like your craving needs to be breakfast food.
Right.
They probably have other stuff. I don't really want to get a burger from Waffle House.
That's weird, I think.
I think so too. Why would you go to a place called Waffle House and then order the meat? Like if it's not a sausage.
I've seen it, but it's still kind of weird.
Yeah, but Sheetz like had options that you knew were made like fresh in front of you. So if you wanted, like I used to get taco salads with everything in them, and they came sealed, and then you just like shake them up like crazy, and then you had like beautifully mixed taco salad, and that was like my drunk food at Randolph-Macon was an everything taco salad. But then some nights I just wanted a cinnamon pretzel, and I could have that at Sheetz.
Absolutely. Can you do that at Wawa? Absolutely not. You're stuck with some random sandwiches or like some mac and cheese or something.
I remember a debate on the basketball team between two guys about Wawa and Sheetz, and it got real heated. And it was between, I don't know if you ever knew Phil Hawley or who he was, but he was
never got to meet Phil, but Phil was nice. Phil was a good guy.
Yeah, so Phil was like our center, and then you did know Reed Klotz. So Reed and Phil, they are from, so Phil is from like my neck of the woods out in West Virginia. Reed's from outside of Philly. So very clear Wawa Sheetz distinction. Philly is all about the Wawa. Maryland, southern places, and like Western and like West Virginia, we're kind of about the Sheetz. So they get in this, this argument, and there's like Sheetz or Wawa, they're going back and forth. And then all of a sudden Phil's like, you know what, Reed? I've had enough of it. We both know that Wawa has had issues with cleanliness standards, and that's a fact. You can't argue with that. And then Reed fires Zach, and he's like, you know what, Phil? Sheetz give you AIDS. And that's fact. You can't argue with that. And then it just ended there. And then like 10 minutes later, some asshole on the bus yells like, hey, do you guys like Pepsi or Coke? And I was like, no. And then, they just get into, and like, I think Phil was just like, yo, Reed, I like Coke. Where you at? And Reed's just like, I don't even know you anymore, man. Like, it was such a debacle.
That's funny, man. But Sheetz just blows it out the water for me, man.
Yeah, and it like always has. It's just like Wawa is just trying to keep up.
Yeah, like it's just, come on, man. Like, don't get me wrong. Does Wawa have some good stuff? They do. But do they have a lot of good stuff?
Right.
Like Sheetz? No. I can go to Sheetz, get a nice appetizer sampler with some macaroni and cheese bites, some cheese curds, some mozzarella sticks, while also getting some garlic parm fries, while also getting a pretzel sandwich with bacon and pepperoni and pepper jack cheese.
And they're all good. Like, you don't have any real misses in that list.
No, that's what I'm saying. So it's like, why would I limit myself with options?
Yeah. I remember trying, so Sheetz doesn't go so far south as like Florida. So there's no Sheetz there. And I remember really there's actually no Wawa down there, at least near Tallahassee that I can remember.
Right.
And I remember trying to explain this premise to like grad school friends. I'm like, well, it'd be great if that Sheetz. And like, what is that? And it's like, it's this 24-hour gas station that has great food. And they're like, but it's a gas station. I was like, well, yes, but it also has great food. And they're like, and the gas station people make your food. And I was like, well, yeah, but they're good at it. And they make you like whatever you want. And they're like, whatever I want. I was like, basically. And they're like, I can get a chicken Caesar salad. I was like, yeah. And they're like, and I can get a burger. I was like, yeah. And they're like, they can't be good at everything. I'm like, but they are.
It's a crazy concept.
I just like, the people didn't believe in the magic of Sheetz, especially like at 2 a.m. It's just the best thing.
It's the gas station and food thing that throws people off.
Yeah, I feel like I should have led with like, it's a really good made-to-order restaurant with a huge menu, they also sell gas. Like I should have switched it, but I never did because it is you pull in, you see the gas station like first and foremost.
Right, exactly. But you walk in, you're like, what's that delicious smell? Everything.
Yeah. Yeah, true.
Everything is the answer.
Fresh Krispy Kremes that have been delivered this morning.
Exactly.
Well, quick question. Coming back, what are your thoughts on your wine aside from what it says on the bottle?
So I like it, man. It's well, how do I explain it? It's sweet, but not too sweet, right? I definitely get the berry. It's got this tangy thing in the back at the finish.
Yeah.
So that's you can feel it after every swig. So it's cool. It's cool.
The thing about these, one thing when I was like in the wine class, a big indicator of the type of wine you're drinking is also the color. So a lot of these wines, like if you were to ever get like a Pinot Noir from like California and then a French Pinot and you pour them in a glass next to each other, the like New World ones are really like purple and red, and these are kind of like a brick red color sometimes too. So if you get this one like person I befriended who took me wine tasting, he was a professor at a university and his family was like winemakers. He just was like really established in winemaking, but happened to also love chemistry. He would bust out these like 1970s and 1980s French Pinots. And they were like so light, they looked like he had mixed them with water. I mean, they were like light, they looked kind of rosé-ish almost, but they just like, they get so light over time. And so every time I see like a French Pinot, I was like, oh yeah, one day this is going to be like really, really light if you weren't to drink it. But obviously I'd prefer to drink it.
Right, exactly. I'm always going to be drink over waiting. Yeah,
and like there's, I'm glad I got the opportunity to drink to drink really aged wine. It's super cool to like learn how it's going to age, but I don't have that kind of patience. I don't think I'm a collector. As much as I like wine, I don't have the money to be a collector, but also I don't have the patience to be a collector. Like,
so it's like it's similar to like investing, right? Like you buy some stocks, and it's like they just say, okay, now what? Just wait. Oh. Okay.
Yeah, but the stock sits in front of you in your house.
Right.
It's like, don't touch me. Like, I have some money in stocks too, but I don't see them every day. So yeah, it would be way harder.
Every day, like drink me, like no, I can't.
Especially when you're running low and you haven't been, to the wine shop and it's like staring at you like I'm really good now because you waited 5 years. Like I don't have that kind of.
Like come on, just a little sip.
But sometimes if you find like these little wine shops, you can find really old bottles sometimes for a pretty good deal. And I would highly recommend if you go in and you just see like a 15, 20-year-old bottle of red, whatever it is, and it's like under $30, buy it and try it. Like, because that old wine you don't find very much, and occasionally you'll find one. Like the other day, I was at this like random wine shop, and they had a it was the year 2000 or 2001, and it was a grape called a Tannat. I had never heard of this.
I've never heard of it. Yeah.
It's a French wine called Tannat, but it's 21 years old. Like, wow. This is like 30 euros. I'm like, when's the next time I'm going to have the chance to drink a wine like this? So I grabbed it, and I'm going to open it one of these days for a nice dinner, but it could suck. I mean, there's a reason it could be 30 euros too. Like, not what a 20-year-old would normally cost. Right. It could be the Tannats are terrible, and you should not drink them. I don't know.
Hey, I like that. Right. You want to get into Shiraz, man?
Let's do it. We opened it a little bit ago, so it should be real nice and aerated. So this one, I picked an Australian Shiraz, but it is not a characteristic Australian Shiraz.
Okay.
Most people, I think, would say a characteristic Australian Shiraz is from Barossa Valley. I picked a slightly different one because the first time after the wine class, where we drank like nothing but Australian wines, the first time I had a wine that was really different from those wines was one from McLaren Vale. It was still Australian, but it was so different from the other ones I had that it really like made me realize how much I like wine, I guess. Okay. So I just picked something a little different.
Okay. So I do have like a small segment that I keep forgetting to do on these. It's called Only Facts.
Okay.
So basically, it's like a fact about wine. So why did we open our bottle of Shiraz early before we drank it?
So big wines like Shiraz and Cabernet, they need a little bit of time to aerate. And oxygen gets in and helps release some of the flavors and also lowers the tannin level, the really acidic flavor that coats your mouth and makes things overly bitter.
Okay.
So that's why it's good to open those type of wines early. Shiraz, Cabernets, Grenaches and Malbecs, Carmeneres, these really big red grapes. You don't really need to do it so much with white wines. Even lighter wines like the Pinot, lighter reds like the Pinot, you don't necessarily need to do it. But if you ever drink aged wines, you should open them way early.
Okay.
I would say if they're 10 years old, you should count on them being open at least 2 hours before you.
Wow.
Yeah. And I would say some of the wines that I've had didn't start to taste good until 5 or 6 hours after I opened them. If somebody gave me a really old bottle as like a gift. And what I would do is like open it a little after lunch and pour a glass and just taste the glass as I went. And then when the glass tasted good, it was time to pour the rest. And that happened really late. Like they change a lot by the second glass. And I used to think that was because I was getting drunk, but no, it's the wine. The wine changes.
I mean, it could have been part of it, right? But like, it's definitely not. Yeah.
True. And I just thought as a college kid, you know, like I was drinking Franzia, right? So that probably was not changing all that much.
I think you got the flavor immediately.
Yeah. I mean, because we used to like, it was so embarrassing. We would do like Tour de Franzia, where it was like a race between like teams of 3 or 4 people who could finish their bag of Franzia first.
Nice.
And like, why? It's just such a bad wine, 1. And 2, it's the worst hangover you'll ever have is like fruity, cheap wine.
Oh my God.
Why?
Well, wine hangovers are bad anyway if you don't prepare yourself. But like, I can only imagine what a bag of wine would have done.
But a bag of Franz. And like, it just so much has changed about my life. Like what I wouldn't pay for like a really good cocktail instead of that free bag of Franzia. Like happy to go to an expensive bar and get a really good gin and tonic for like 10 euros instead of a free bag of Franzia, like hands down. Life changes you. Having a job changes you. What you want to spend your money on.
It's like, listen, man, like in college, it's like, oh, we're just taking whatever at this point. Like, oh, we get what? Let's just do this. Look how much is in the bag. Look how big the bag is. Like, yeah. But are you really tasting?
Now, I mean, I will pay for the experience of not feeling like death.
Exactly. Because, like, you don't get that bounce back anymore, man. Like, you don't get I drank last night.
Multi-day. They're like multi-day hangovers. My God, they're so bad. And, like, I'm on a team with 20-year-olds. It is nothing to them to drink the night before a match.
That's what they still have their powers.
I know. It's so unfair.
Yeah, I miss it. I'm not going to lie. I miss it.
I mean, I can tell you, I remember the day my powers went away. Like, I graduated from college, and my first job after college, actually, from Randolph-Macon, I moved to Mexico for 6 weeks, and I worked at a kids' summer camp. This is one of these camps I told you that, like, I'll just never go back. But, I mean, the whole time I was there, I didn't drink for 6 weeks. I was working. I was always with kids, and I had never really been truly hungover until I came back from not drinking for 2 months. And I went out and had like 3 or 4 beers. And the next day I was like, my head was pounding. I felt like I had a migraine. And I was like, is this what everyone else felt like this whole time? And I never recovered. That's how my hangovers are now.
Oh my God.
The moral of the story is keep drinking. Never take a break. It's terrible.
That's the only moral. It's like, don't stop. Don't stop believing. Just keep drinking.
You can do it. You can function while drinking at the level you were as a college senior who'd finished all your main requirements. It's totally feasible.
But the minute you stop, that's it. That's it. You just lose it, man. You lose it.
Decide then that that's it.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
What
kind of smells did you get from yours?
So, it's kind of, I don't know, man. It's like a drier smell than me. For me.
Yeah, so mine are they're a little characteristic of the Shirazes I've had from Australia, in that they're almost like creamy. There's like a dryness, but it's a little bit creamy, and like I almost smell like burnt toast or something. And the other thing I tend to get is like a vanilla smell, and I get that a lot with Australian Shiraz.
Okay. Yeah.
So I definitely, in this one, I get this like vanilla cream plus these like dark red wine notes, but the vanilla cream always stands out to me for some reason. And the flavor profile kind of matches. It's still a little vanilla-y, but it's nice. I like it.
So I have a Davey Family Estate Grown Shiraz.
Very nice. I like the label on that one. It's the silver is slick.
I like that. It's very smooth. It's very smooth what they're doing with that. Let's see. It's 14% alcohol, so I'm a big fan of that.
Yeah. Mine is too. I'm really nailing the percentage today.
Good for you, man.
I didn't even look at that. That worked out well.
Good for you. It says that it was 14 months maturation in fine grained American and French oak, and has mulberry and blackberry flavors. Okay.
Mine is a Wakefield Shiraz. It's not exactly from McLaren Vale. It's from Clare Valley, which is not too far. It has, I think, pretty similar characteristics. I struggled to find a McLaren Vale at the shop I went to today. But this one says, this Shiraz from our founding range of wines displays seductive ripe berry and plum flavors, perfectly balanced with enticing mocha. So I definitely get the plum, a little bit of the mocha. The plum is like pretty pronounced, actually.
Yeah.
And this is a wine too this is one of those ones that'll change a lot by your second glass, even though we opened it. It changes a lot. I find these like really big wines, like that are just, especially really dark. I mean, they're almost like inky colored. And that's like a kind of an indication that it's going to change a lot. I don't know if the color has anything to do with it, but I can always look at a wine and be like, yeah, it's probably a Shiraz or Cabernet. It's so dark, and therefore it'll change a lot by the second glass or so.
Where does Merlot stand on that? Is Merlot a darker one too?
I would say Merlot is not one that you really need to open too far in advance. It's one of the lighter, fruitier ones.
Okay.
Well, it's not fruity, but it's one of the lighter ones, I would say. It's not a heavy, big wine. And also this kind of changes by country. That's what's really cool and really tough about wine. It's like every country has a different characteristic. So these are like typical of Australia, but if you get a Syrah from France or Switzerland or Austria or something, they are way more chill and not as intense and like almost like jammy in your mouth, like you're eating like straight jam. They don't have that. They like the subtle flavors there. So
that's a good characteristic, like jammy. I feel that.
Yeah, and that's a really like known feeling about these wines, I think. And they even have ones that have jam in the name, like Jam Jar is a really popular Australian Shiraz, and like it's why they call it that. You know, it's really known for its intense flavor. And if you like that flavor, like, man, are these the wines for you? It's just like when you find someone from France who grew up on these really subtle Pinots, like that's gonna like punch them in the face. So
exactly.
And that's also what I like about wine. Like, and I hate when people are snooty about it because like you just like what you like. That's the best part about it.
That is the best part about wine is like there's so many different types that you can like claim to like your favorite type.
Yeah.
But once you find your favorite type, there's still a bunch of different ones from different countries and different places.
Absolutely.
So,
and still find something new, you know, and like even once you cling to your type, finding even like an age range, you know, it's really cool to get two wines that vary by like they're the same wine, but they're different by 3 years, and open those next to each other and then just see how they've changed, you know? Things like that you can do with just like one type of wine. I mean, I really like wine for that reason. And that's one of the first things we learned at Randolph-Macon in this course, because you kind of go into it thinking like, ooh, look at me, like drinking wine with my pinky up. But the first thing you read, oh my God, he shows this slide that's like almost alarming, that I think it's like 80 to 90% of some crazy statistic like this 80 to 90% of wine purchases in the U.S. are between the $3 to $6 range. And like,
I can see it.
I could believe that because like we're college kids who are coming from that range. We have never spent more than $6 on a bottle of wine. But that means one of two things. Like one, there's really, really cheap wines that are probably bad and people are drinking bad wine. But two, it means that wine is super accessible. Yep. There's no reason for it to be like a snobby thing. So I hate when people are snobby about it.
So I think it's like with any like thing, man. Like if you're like a connoisseur, if you're like this, you know a lot about it, you can get that snobby personality, right?
Yeah.
But like instead of being snobby about it, make people more aware about it. Make people like teach people more about like stuff like, hey, you like this flavor profile, but like maybe let's not get this $6. Maybe like spend like a little bit more money, get this.
Yeah.
And like don't be rude about it. You know what I mean?
No, and like it's so easy to like introduce people in that way too. Like, I mean, if somebody tells me they're like, you told me that your favorite 3 wines were like Pinot, Riesling, and Sauvignon Blanc. And so I can tell you like crisp flavors. My first thought was like, well, you know what I really like about crisp white wines? I really like Italian Pinot Grigios because a lot of times they're quite light and they're not sweet. So, and they aren't overly tart. I think they're like for me, they're like the perfect middle ground between sweet and too tart. And there was this wine once that was actually made by one of the Real Housewives of New York. She had her own wine, and I hate that I'm using her gimmick, but she had a Pinot Grigio, and it was called, I don't know what the name was, but her phrase was light without the bite. And I remember drinking it being like, that's exactly what this is. And from there on, I associate that with like Italian Pinot Grigio specifically. So my advice to you is if that's a flavor you like, try Italian, a few different Italians, like see if you like them, because they're also not on the like crazy price range. You can experiment in that range. Yeah. So like stuff like that, you just hear something and you maybe like have a small background in it. And it's all from this class, right? Like we paid a lot of money for that Randolph-Macon education. It should go to something like this.
Yeah, like. And
my parents paid 8 straight years because my brother and I never overlapped. So they really paid for this course.
Like, listen, this episode is brought to you by Rachel's parents.
Yeah, thank you, Barb and John Armstrong. It's greatly appreciated. This is what I'm doing with that money you put in. Don't worry, I also go to work.
This is the pinnacle of that education. To finish up, we're gonna do we'll do like a little lightning round question, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So let's see. Should we do what year did you graduate high school?
2004.
Okay. All right. Cool. So we'll do a little 2004 to 2008 stuff.
That's perfect. Okay.
Okay. Cool. So, what is Rachel listening to before a game in 2004? What's her go-to soundtrack?
Fall Out Boy.
Okay. So wait, was this around time? Oh no, was this around time when the most popular song that came out? You know, the basic one.
Well, they had Sugar We're Going Down.
Yeah.
That's the one that kind of made them famous, but they had an album before that called Take This to Your Grave, and that was like my jam in high school.
Okay.
Yeah.
I like Fall Out Boy, but they're one of those bands where I'm like, I'll listen to their stuff if it comes out. Like, you remember Anna. Anna listens to Fall Out Boy.
Of course. I remember Anna for sure. And like, I also think I remember talking to Fall Out Boy about Fall Out Boy or those bands with Anna when Anna was a freshman. Yeah. Like, definitely, I think shared similar interests in that front. And like, sorry if you hear my coffee maker going off. Since I needed a quick dose before our 11 p.m.
Yeah, of course. I'm out here like with the sun out, and you're out here like the dark.
Yeah. True. But like, the thing I like about Fall Out Boy and bands like Fall Out Boy is they have peppy, upbeat music with really dark, angry lyrics, and I think it's so funny. I mean, I remember hearing a song by Fall Out Boy. Or like, I went to see a different band in high school. I went to see, I think, a band called Less Than Jake, which is like a ska band.
Okay.
Like horns and stuff. And there was this random band opening for them I'd never heard of called Fall Out Boy, and they were unreal. And so we bought their CD at the merch table, as you did in 2002, 2003. And then we were reading the lyrics of the songs on the way home, because you can't understand them live normally. And we were crying, laughing, because there's this one song that was really happy and upbeat, and it's like, it said, let's play this game called When You Catch Fire, I Wouldn't Piss to Put You Out. And we were just like, wait, that was a happy song. What the hell? Why were they so angry? Like, it was just really funny. And so I really got into. Yeah, and I just like all their songs are like that. They're super angry, and so but yet happy, and that's what I like about them. I don't know. They just never got old. And I also thought their albums never got bad. I mean, sometimes when the band becomes famous, their next one is like a little forced. I never felt that with their music.
Yeah, I feel like they always had like a good balance of like, they understood that they were poppy, not pop. Well, yeah, they were poppy, so they had like a couple of those songs, but to their core, they kind of remained the same, you know?
Absolutely. And like, they stayed equally as angry in their lyrics. And also they had a lot of songs that were like different from the ones coming out at the time. So they did one or two experimental things that were cool. And yeah, that would have been my go-to at that time. And I still like them.
Okay. Was Rachel a Britney or Christina fan?
Probably Britney.
Okay.
Yeah.
NSYNC or Backstreet Boys?
Backstreet Boys. Nick Carter. Oh, loved him.
Really?
Yeah. I would say I did like a lot of like Bye 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 that's like the best boy band song ever written, of all time. That is just an anthem. But I just loved Nick Carter. I don't know what it was about him and his weird little white blonde haircut. It did it for me.
Those 2004 cuts were,
they were real fresh. It was a bit much. And also he had a little brother, Aaron Carter. Remember Aaron Carter?
Yeah.
So Aaron Carter, he came through Tallahassee when I was going to school there at grad school. So I was like 26 or something. And there was a Groupon. It was a Groupon for a ticket to a bar which I went to a few times. And in the back, apparently they had like a room for concerts. I didn't know this. And so I bought the tickets and like made my roommate at the time go with me to see Aaron Carter. And he was actually really good. He definitely played his like weird little hits, like the I Want Candy song. And like, it was actually pretty. And so I bought a t-shirt and it said,
oh my God.
It said I Heart AC. And so I had this t-shirt for like years, and it was a few years later, I was like with friends. I took a girls' weekend with two friends to Charleston, South Carolina. We were at a restaurant. I was wearing this t-shirt, and our waitress was like, "Oh, are you from New Jersey? I'm from New Jersey too." And I was like, "No, I'm not from New Jersey." And she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I just thought you were." And I was like, "Why? I didn't say anything." She's like, "No, your shirt says AC." And I was like, "Oh no, it doesn't stand for that." And I didn't want to say what it stood for. And so,
could you imagine and be like, "Oh no, this stands for Aaron Carter."
Well, I had to say it because then she was like, "What does your shirt stand for?" And I was just kind of silent for a second. And my friends were like, "Yeah, Rachel." They didn't know. They were like, "What is? If it's not?" We thought it was Atlantic City, and I was like, "Aaron Carter came through town a few years ago." And like, I remember the waitress walked away and my two friends were like, "We're going to need to come up with something else for you to say for the rest of the day if someone else asks you that." Like, you cannot tell us.
You should say air conditioning and call it a day.
I know. I'm really into indoor coolness. Like, anything would have been better. But my friends were just like horrified that I had an Aaron Carter t-shirt. And in hindsight, I should have been too, but I still bought it. Like, I think I still have it somewhere.
Oh, God.
So yeah, Nick Carter and Aaron Carter, I was into them.
The Carters, man. So Rachel is going to have a night out at Randolph-Macon. What is she getting to drink?
Oh, at Randolph-Macon, probably like a Smirnoff Ice. Like something straight girly. Straight girly.
God.
I could not handle. Really?
Yeah, so like it would be like, so we would hide Smirnoff Ices like in like
ice people.
Yeah, and they would have to chug it, right?
That's so popular here now.
Is it really?
Oh my God. I've been to so many things, like to my friends' apartments, and they will hide not like they sell them as doubles here. So they're like double the volume.
The big boys.
And they ice people all the time. And I'm like, how is this just getting to you? I thought we were past this phase.
Yeah.
The marketing is years late. Like that, we did that at like friends' weddings 8, 9, 10 years ago. They're still doing it here. Yeah. It's icing people is very popular here, oddly enough.
That's
what I would have taken. Here's what I would do. I would go to Sheetz and I would get a pink lemonade and I would drink the pink lemonade and then I would pour the Smirnoff Ice into it. So everyone thought I was drinking lemonade, but it was
nice.
Smirnoff Ice. Yeah.
Nice. Okay.
Very classy.
Okay. Rachel needs to watch one thing she needs to binge something before a class. What's she watching?
Oh, The Office.
Okay, nice. Always a classic.
A million times, but I would start it again tomorrow. I don't know. It never gets old.
It's so easy to do it. It's so easy to just pick up from episode 1.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite character from the show?
Oh, that's so hard. Probably Dwight.
Okay.
It has to be like Dwight. Yeah, Dwight and Michael. I don't know. Well, no, that's not true. I would actually say Toby, because
really
the relationship with Michael and Toby, I think, is so genius. And I also know that Toby wrote most of the best episodes.
Gotcha.
So between Toby and Mindy Kaling writing most of the good episodes, and like also this relationship of like nothing happened between them, but like Michael fundamentally hates him because he kills Fun, like in HR.
Right.
I just think
that's kind of his job, and it's crazy.
You know, and like I think in one episode when they're deciding what to do with like a budget, do they get chairs or a copier? And Toby's like, we should get radon testing. Like it's the silent killer, and Michael's like, you're the silent killer. Shut up. Go back to the end. Those little one-liners are just so brilliant to me.
Oh God, yeah. That is one of the most underrated relationships in that show, because people automatically go to like Michael and Dwight, they go to Dwight or Angela, they go to Jim and Pam, they go to Ryan and Kelly. But Toby and Michael is an underrated relationship because
I just think the pure hatred.
They are naturally enemies because like HR is meant to keep things in line and keep things in check. And Michael's job is just to make sure nothing's ever like that. So like
100%.
So it even makes it funnier when he ends up marrying an HR rep.
Oh my God. But even the first episode when Holly shows up, he hates her for like 10 seconds and then she turns out to be lovely. And it just like puts everything on its head, you know? He like doesn't like her at all. He's like, you're here to kill Fun. And, you know, then he falls in love with her when she's putting her chair together.
Yeah. So The Office is just one of those timeless classics, man, that just, it'll never get old.
Yeah.
Just because of that. That's a perfect cast. That's a perfectly written show.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I loved. So I only saw it when it was on like live, maybe like twice. And I still remember the first time I saw it was at Randolph-Macon. I was like dating a guy in Kappa Sig, and I was at his apartment, and he's like, "Oh, The Office is on." I was like, "I've heard about this. People are really into it, but I've never seen it." And the episode we just saw like I just saw the cold open. And it was the one where Michael looks out the window and he sees a guy with like a turban coming in. And he's like, oh my God, this is it. He's like, God, everyone, shut off the lights. And he like locks the door. He's like, it's happening. This is it. And everyone's like, should we call the police? He's like, shh. And then it goes back to like his confessional and he's like, me and the new IT guy did not get off on the right. I've like never seen it, and that was the first thing I saw. So brilliant. I was just like, I'm hooked. This is so good. And so then I think it was like years later before I watched the full thing, like start to finish, after it was over. But it was so good.
So I always ask Office fans this one question because it varies depending on what type of like viewer you are.
Okay.
How many times have you watched Scotch Tots?
Have I watched what?
The Scotch Tots episodes.
Oh, the Scotch Tots. Oh my God, it's one of my favorite ones. God, it's over 30, 40 times.
Really? So here's the thing. I think I watched it maybe twice, 2 or 3 times. It's the most cringeworthy episode.
It's hard.
Because, like, it's so hard to watch that episode.
I mean, but here are the two things that save it for me. One is when they're in the coffee room in the very beginning of the episode, and Aaron comes in and says, Michael, I have your schedule for today. And you keep getting this phone call. What is Scott's Tots? And in the background, Stanley just cracks up. And he's like, has it been 10 years already? Like, you don't even know what Scott Tots is, but Stanley is dying that it has been 10 years. And then they catch you up. They're like, Michael promised college to third graders. And then when it's so cringeworthy when he's about to tell them, but at the same time, he's like, I want to talk to you about intuition. Does anyone know what's about to happen? No, you're gonna make me say it. And then the bell rings, and he's like, "Oh, are we dismissed?" And the guy's like, "No, it's a double period." And he's like, "Oh." Like, these two scenes for me just like make the episode, and I will deal with the cringeworthy part.
Yeah.
Oh my God! And finding out that like they have the Michael Scott reading room, like they've named the building after him.
They done so much waiting for this one moment.
It's painful. I agree, but I still get through because it's just too funny.
Yeah, that's
I agree that the cringiness is bad. Watching someone kill a class, and then when he's like, you're gonna need new laptops, so I bought you all batteries. They do a good job of misleading like the viewer as well as the students. Like the irony is near the students in a lot of these parts.
Oh my God. It's oh my God. It's such a hard watch.
Yeah. I get it.
Okay. 2 more questions. The first one is, does it boggle your mind when you say when someone's like, oh yeah, 20 years ago, that came out, and you realize it just means 2001?
Yes. Oh my God.
I get so pissed off when I hear that. I'm like, wait, you're right. It is only 2001. That's sick.
Because that's like when I just said like this wine that was like a 2001, I had to like almost calculate backwards because I wanted to say it was from like the early 90s because it couldn't be a 20-year-old wine if it's from 2001. And it's also, it's like, that was also kind of like our prime, right? Like the early 2000s, your high school years are so formative. Yeah, and it's really weird when someone says something 20 years old and we're still not back in the 90s. I can't.
It's tough. It's tough. A final question is, so you can travel back in time to, we'll say freshman Rachel. Okay. What do you tell her?
What do I tell freshman Rachel? I tell freshman Rachel to be more confident because her instincts are normally right.
Mm-hmm.
Trust her instincts because she was pretty spot on with a lot of things. And didn't think that she was spot on because she thought she was too naive to possibly know that. But I think I've learned over time, I'm pretty good at reading the room, and I should have read the room, trusted my instincts when I read the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my trust your instincts. They're probably right.
Man, here at Clueless Vino, we like to rate our wines to see which ones are the best of the day. So we're going to start off with the Sauvignon Blanc that we both had. What would you give yours out of 5 glasses? You can use half or quarter, whatever number.
I think as like a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc goes, I think it'd be a really great on a hot day to have a glass of this.
Okay.
3.5. I liked it.
Okay.
And also for the value, I don't remember what yours cost, but mine was like a few bucks. So value-wise, that's a great one. I think yours is pretty similar, actually.
Yeah. I like this. I liked it a lot. For me, I would probably give like a 3.6. Really good. Really, like I said, not too tart. and just had that right amount of crispness. Again, really good with probably a fish outside, just chilling out on the porch. You know what I'm saying? Just something relaxed, something chill. I like that. I like that a lot. So our Pinot Noir, what would you give yours out of 5?
I really liked mine. It was really drinkable, like from the first sip. I would say mine's a 4 out of 5. Yep.
Okay. Nice. I'm gonna give mine a 3. I'll say 3.4. I like the flavors of it. I did think it was a little bit too earthy, I guess.
Yeah.
But for me, just because it's weird. I don't like super sweet stuff, but I also like super dry stuff. I'm like this guy that just like plays in the middle, like all the time.
That's okay.
But I did enjoy the flavors though. The flavor was really good. I did like that. It's one of those ones where I would have like one glass, like you need one glass of red wine for your heart. I do that. You know, like this is the one. You know what I mean? I wouldn't binge this. I guess that's a bad way to put that. Why would I say binge? I wouldn't have.
No, you didn't anyway. But yeah.
Yeah.
There are times when I open wines and I'm sad the bottle's gone, and I wouldn't say this is the time I'd be sad the bottle's gone, but I would have more than one glass, and I would say this is definitely not one you would be sad the bottle is gone. You would just have 1 or 2 glasses and be good with it.
Okay. Yeah. And then finally, our Shiraz. What did you think about that?
Yeah, I liked it okay. I think I liked it less than the others. I would say because, yeah, it didn't have a really like complex profile. It was pretty like vanilla-y and almost too much. Yeah. And that's really characteristic, but it's like a bit boring in that sense because I know it's coming. I would say a 2 out of 5. Maybe it just also needs more time. I don't know.
I would say like a 2.75. It's definitely I feel like the notes are like just like this, right? Like it's
linear. It's like very flat.
Right, like a lot of these other wines, you get like this high point and then dips, or like it starts off low but then like comes up high. This one is just like what you got is initially and that's it, you know.
Agreed.
Yeah, but I mean, not terrible. I've had terrible wines. What do you feel about dessert wines?
I like dessert wines, but only after dessert. Like, and I do really like I appreciate a good dessert wine after like a nice dinner for sure. But I definitely try to like not have more than one glass because they can be really addicting because they're so easy to drink. It's so sweet.
Right.
And they're like the cause of the biggest headache ever. But I like a glass of dessert wine after a nice meal. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about you? Are you a dessert wine person?
So I've only had one dessert wine in my life, and it tasted like a Tootsie Roll, and it was terrible. So no. Yeah. Not a great experience. But I'll probably try some in the future just to see, you know, maybe that was a bad experience. You know, that's a weird flavor profile to start, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I want to thank you for joining me, man. Like it's really late for you, Mark. It's the next day for you, right?
Yeah, it's like 1:15. So I'll probably But that, again, I do that like once a week. That's okay.
Right. Yeah. But I do want to thank you for coming, man.
No, thank you. And I think I'll have to wrap it up soon anyway because my computer says it's low on power.
Oh God. Okay, let's make this quick. So this is the part where I say. This is the part where I say, you know, throw your socials out there if you want people to know, or just throw a closing remark, whatever you want to say.
Everyone, get vaccinated or wear your mask. I want to travel again and see you all so we can all drink wine together.
Yeah, there we go. We got to try to do like a in-person one when we get a chance, man.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, man. Thank you again for having me.
Absolutely. But don't forget to drink up.